Hey, what's up? This is Coach Stokes, Stokes House Boxing Academy. You got to stay ready so you ain't worry about getting ready. Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Coach Stokes, Stokes House Boxing Academy. You got to stay ready so you ain't worry about getting ready. And we definitely are staying ready with today's very special guest. I'm going to let you know who we're talking about today. He is world-renowned cutman, probably one of the best cutman and hand wrappers in the game, in the sport. I'm going to let you know who he is. He is a top-level amateur and professional combat sports trainer. He's been doing this since 2004. He is a course provider for elite athletic boxing, professional boxing, like I said, amateur boxing, professional amateur MMA, who's sanctioned by IEBA, BUI, IMMAF, and the UFC. He also founded the Cut course back in 2009, which motivated him by witnessing some of the most atrocious and uneducated methods that you possibly can see in the sport of combat sports. He just basically want to bring better care when it comes to your hands and just being all around, cut person and a trainer. He's also an author for his newest ebook, which is called The Ultimate Guide in Corner Care Module 3, Professional Hand Wrapping. And he's originally from Ireland. He has been in the sport for over 4 decades, which a lot of people, he's been doing this a lot longer. He's forgotten a lot more than a lot of people even know, I should say. Welcome to the show, my good friend, my pal, my buddy, and somebody who I respect, Coach Joe Clifford. How you doing, brother?
Thanks a lot, Steve. Thank you. I just want to start off by saying, Lanisha Stokes, okay, she's gone for Miss Fitness. You got to vote for her, 100%. You have to get on that. If you missed it, just Lanisha Stokes, that's where it's at.
Thank you, Coach. You don't know that you got 100 brownie points just for mentioning that with her. So without a doubt. So whenever you get a chance to come to the United States and you're on the West Coast, you're more than welcome to our house, and she will cook you one of her stupendous meals. Let's get let's get right into it, Coach. Thanks for being on the show today, and let's start educating my audience on the correct way of hand wrapping. So let me ask you this: what inspired you to write The Ultimate Guide in Corner Care?
If COVID has basically turned a lot of lives upside down right now in terms of where people are going to find employment and what they're going to do next. None of us can produce or predict the future. It's one of those cases in human history where I think the world is just a mess. Everything's going off at the same time. And so basically, we have to reel it back to ones on events. So I work 40 to 45 events a year. Mm-hmm. That's all gone. With one sweep, I was on a 4-continent tour with Olympic boxing, the boxing task force, with the IOC. I was in Senegal, Africa, traveled from there to Jordan, Oman. The COVID thing was a whisper. By the time we got to Jordan, it was a loud noise in the background. And by the time we got to London, it was a scream. And so there was so much misinformation floating around about what it was and what it wasn't. Argentina closed its borders, okay, because we were supposed to go to the Pan American Games straight after. It was a 72-day trip, and then it was supposed to basically extend then into Paris, the World Championships, and then Tokyo. All gone. All of it's just gone. So I sat there like most people right now. I got the mortgage. I got everything that everybody else hasn't, so I had to rearrange the furniture to put things together. So I needed to find a way. I'd been filming, and then I was going on tour with the Olympic boxing, the boxing task force. So I got a lot of film. I looked at the film, And then what I did was I started to piece it together with the notes that I'd compiled over the years in terms of my exposure internationally to all sorts of weird and wonderful hand wraps, whether it was in boxing, athletic or amateur, professional, to crossing over into MMA, amateur, professional, and then Muay Thai. I haven't yet walked the bare knuckle, but I'm familiar with the rap and stuff like that, K1, kickboxing, etc. So I thought rather than doing something like just sitting on my ass and just hoping that things get better, I'll put this together so that then I have a historical kind of file. And I wanted to give it to people so that they could afford it. Now, when I look around me, I see people springing up doing cook courses, left, right, and center. You're more than welcome to do it, but please have the experience. Please have the experience. If you're teaching safety, by all means, I'm with you. But if you're teaching something out of your scope of practice, don't go there. We're turning up for one thing, and that's the athlete only. And I know there are other cook courses out there, and equally there are humble people teaching them. As long as people get the safety elements of it, I don't really mind. But I had to put something digitally together because I just felt like how cook people right now are being represented are probably, we need to reel it back in again, because we have a situation in this period of time where cook people have become more important than the person that's in the corner. And we need to pull that back in. All we are is seconds. That's where we evolved from 150 years ago. We're seconds. Seconds assists. We're in a corner. You may be the head coach and you work as a cook person in boxing. But if you are hired like in other promotions like MMA and various or other combat sports, MMA, you may be hired by the promotion, etc. So, but we've become more important than the athlete. So I felt compelled to put all of this together and give it back to people so they have a reference, because as it presently stands, could people walk under seconds, rules and regulations in corners? In terms of hemostatic agents, athletic commissions permit, that's a quagmire, a legal quagmire to say the least, because basically nobody, unless medically certified, can administer an epinephrine, adrenaline 1:1000 to anybody in any dose without a medical certification. And I've been to the States on the East and West Coast and I've asked those questions. So don't think you're immune from it. It just seems to be habitual in certain things that we turn the other way when it's being used. And there are other options out there that are equally as effective or are getting better. But anyway, the long and the short of it, so I just felt I needed to put something on paper as a guideline, because my only reference when I started was YouTube and to ask people. And then, and even now, cook people, I know it's gotten a little bit because there's so many cook courses now popping up all over the place. I've been doing it for a long, long time. And I can tell you, I've compiled a lot of information together, traveling through multiple sports in 6 continents. So I tried to the best of my ability to answer questions that I knew I was hungry for in terms of information when I started, because YouTube is not an accurate reference of what you should and shouldn't be doing. And when I was looking at some of the stuff that I was witnessing out there, it was butcher shop at best. There was no first aid principles behind it, because if you want to stop a bleed, you use compression. It's that simple. You see people doing all sorts of stuff, stabbing at them, you know, or else they put a dry towel on top of it, which pulls the clot off when you take it away, etc., and stuff like that. So, and then I've seen a kid sit in a ring, had a cut, the second put the grease on top of the ring post, no gloves, took the grease off the top of the ring post and put it in the cut after he dried it up with a towel. So I just said, right, okay, I gotta put something together and put it out there so people have a reference. But equally, there needs to be a higher level of training involved, particularly when you get involved with professional sport, where professional sport crosses over into entertainment value. And entertainment value sometimes dictates, or the dollar value of something dictates how long or how much punishment the fighter may or may not take. or how big a wound is let go because it's a world title fight and because the dollar value of it's so high. So I needed to put some reference, because as it presently stands, cut men are responsible and cut women and cut people are responsible for nothing. There's no code of ethics except the seconds, in terms of seconds, walking corners. They're the only rules and regulations that apply to us. And then the last thing is, like, we dish out dangerous drugs like it's gone out of fashion. So that was the reason the book came together. And then COVID gave me the opportunity and the time to write that book. And so basically, this is one of, it's a series of books, but this is one of them, professional hand wrapping.
Well, it sounds like to me you took advantage. You just didn't sit back on the sideline. You took advantage. You made something positive of what's going on with COVID. You know, there's a lot of people that's, you know, sitting around saying, like, you know, what am I going to do? You know, they don't know when boxing is going to come back or whatever sport they're going to do. But you took advantage. You say, you know what, the hell with that. I'm going to write this book. I'm going to get more information out there. The reason why I'm saying is because my youngest son, he started boxing 2 years ago when he was 8 years old. And I've never been a person who's good at hand wrapping, only doing it myself. So I say, you know, I need to learn for him so he can, so his hands can be protected. I searched out, I went to different people. I reached out to different people. I even reached out to different people on social media. And there was a handful of them that was telling me, you know, they was going to charge me a lot of money just so that they can show me. So I know what you're saying. You have a lot of people that upcharge a lot just for their services. There were even people that have told me, Coach, you know what, if I show you, maybe I shouldn't show you, maybe I can't show you, I'm not going to show you because it's a secret. And that was kind of baffling me, because I'm saying to myself, it's a secret? How did you learn then? Because anything I've been told, and I've been taught in boxing, is we'll learn from someone else. I was always told, if you learn it, it's not yours to keep. It's for you to show somebody else. That's how it works. So with that being said, can you elaborate on that a lot more? Because I can't stand when people say, oh, it's a secret, oh, I can't show you. I think it's BS.
If you keep what you have, it dies with you. If you don't share, like, people are afraid that if you let it out there. See, I'll tell you, there's a lot of stuff in cut person that's cloak and dagger. Okay, and you've just described one of those things, and it annoys me. And the reason why it annoys me is because that education is valuable. The people like you who want to wrap their son's hands, and they want to do it safely. They want to protect the child's hands. And then when they get older, you have a method that you can use to protect your child's hands while they spar and while they box. It's a tool, you know, it's a tool. And the thing is, I don't know why we feel so special that we don't give that information out. I know some of those individuals think or feel that you're taking the bread out of their mouth by giving that information to you, because now you know how to wrap hands. You won't hire me to do it for you. Right. I can tell you something. If you're good at your job, you'll always be busy. If you're good at your job, you'll always be busy. Always be busy. Okay, but if you pull off that stunt where you're keeping it just there all the time, and I work with individuals like that, okay, it's just beyond me. And if I'm being totally honest with you, I've seen very few hand wraps in my lifetime, doing it 16 years as a professional, that I could say that actual hand wrap stands out amongst others. There are a couple of hand wrappers that I have met along the way that are exceptional in what they do. The thing is, are we applying, like, if you look, one of the examples I use in the book, Nevada Athletic Commission, they nailed it in the sense that if you remember the Triple G fight versus Canelo, where Abel Sanchez got into a round the dressing room over stacking, right?
Yes.
The rule actually allows tape on skin, 2-inch tape directly on the skin, around the wrist and across the back of the hand. Why is that? And it doesn't cross the knuckles. It stops an inch or so, or 3/4 of an inch from the knuckles, or whatever. And they tape, or they put bandage over the top and then tape. That method is the most effective method in keeping your hands good, because what it does is it immobilizes the small joints or reduces the movement in the small joints of the wrist and in the hand. It provides far more stability. You put your layer of bandage over the top of it, and then you put your tape. There's one clanger with the rule. It allows you only 12 feet of tape. Now, you go try wrap a pair of professional boxing hands with 12 feet of tape. Now, maybe it was the measures they had in the day when they made the rule up. I don't know. But 12 feet of tape is not accurate. But either way, the fact that they allowed it is a good thing, and they're way ahead of the posse, because proprioception, tape directly on skin, is very, very good. In terms of proprioception is like your body's awareness of space. So if you put something on the skin, your nervous system picks it up. So not only that, though, the value of the tape directly on the skin provides far more support. So what I tried to do was that example you just gave me, Stevie, or you gone out there, Steve, and asking questions and people telling you no or charging you a ridiculous amount of money. A lot of the times for hand wraps that are not how could I say, safe, 100% safe. There's just, I've seen a lot of hand wraps from so-called professionals, and it looks like paper mache.
Yes.
Okay. And some of the most renowned hand wrappers I was told to go and study, when I looked at it, I thought to myself, I'm not a big cheese myself. I just use what evidence is. As a physiotherapist myself, a physical therapist, tape on skin, it's the reason why physical therapists put tape on skin, or as close as possible they put underlay, is because it's far, far more beneficial in providing support. So that method in Nevada Athletic Commission Rule 467432, check it out for yourself. You can put tape on skin. And Abel Sanchez was arguing about that, but I think it was the fight was in Nevada, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, okay. So it was totally within the rule and regulation and the law to actually do so. Now, if you travel to a different state, they may not have the same rule, and therefore it's called three-phase stacking or stacking. And then people confuse it with other forms of stacking and don't allow it. There are at least two different types of stacking. The stacking across your knuckles, where you build a welt like a Muay Thai. A welt of zinc oxide or surgeon's tape across the knuckles, and then you bury it into the wrap. That's a whole different situation. Mm-hmm. But there's lots of ways that you can stack. Three-phase stacking is not for a second dangerous to your opponent. As a matter of fact, once it's not across the knuckles, the tape is not across the knuckles, and it stops an inch or 3/4 of an inch from the knuckles, there is absolutely no harm that can be caused by that, other than it provides stability and strength to the fighter that actually has it on their hands. So it's a fantastic hand wrap. What I tried to do was try to educate people on the least amount of bandage to use. Like 3 windings is more than enough. Just put a really thin film of bandage on so that the tape can get closer to the skin. Because if you put far too much bandage on the skin, what happens is when your hand moves in the various positions, the tape glides over the top. Okay, so the closer the tape is to the skin, the far more beneficial in terms of stability and support. That was one thing I wanted to educate people on. Then I went and compared it to the British Board of Boxing. I'm Irish, by the way. The British Board of Boxing control. I used that rule and regulation, Rule 322. And you're allowed to use unlimited amounts of bandage and tape. So in theory, that hand wrap, British Board of Boxing control, is heavier than the Nevada Athletic Commission one. Because if you work the rule in Nevada Athletic Commission to the rule, in terms of the amount of bandage you're allowed to use, 20 yards and 12 feet of tape, in comparison to the British Board of Boxing control, where you can use unlimited amounts, it's a heavier wrap. So a heavier wrap over 10 or 12 rounds, it may only be, ounces or less than ounces. But you know what? That's an additional weight in your glove when you're throwing. And I know it's not a lot of weight, but you're still carrying more weight than the person that hasn't, All right. I'm trying to say is I try to put as much education and evidence into it as possible and use the same frameworks, because when you talk to people about hand wrapping, they make it so complicated, and yet it's so simple if you use the same framework. Where people usually mess up, Steve, is that when they put the tape on, they put it on like paper mache, they crisscross, they go around at different, you need to put it on symmetrical. So it looks like eye candy when it's finished. You just layer it and then it looks like eye candy. So I do put all the frameworks. The ebook is highly interactive. It's got a ton of videos. You just click onto them, it'll bring you straight through to the link. And it's hand wraps not only in amateur, professional boxing, it's in Muay Thai, it's in MMA, and it's in bare knuckle as well. So I across the whole spectrum.
Very well written. I want to tell you, the sources was on point. I loved everything. I'm not going to give too much away because I want people to go and buy it, go support. But I wanted to ask you this about the Cotto and Margarito fight. Was that stacking? Was that illegal stacking? What Margarito did? What his camp did to his hands?
Supposedly, it was a thing called smackling powder, I think it's called. You know, polyfiller?
Yes.
Something like polyfiller or something like that. So what you do is, like, if by law or by rule and regulation that you make the padding for the knuckles from the total length of bandage that you've been allocated, right? But what happens is coaches bring in, if I'm your opponent, I have every right to stand in your dressing room, so I can stand over that while it's being put on. But I could get a piece of 5" by 5" cloth, and I could layer it. It's called layer cake with polyfiller or smackling powder, okay? And then basically what I could do is I'd put it on. You wouldn't see the powder as a commissioner. Fold it, then you wouldn't see it. But when, in the glove, what happens with a little bit more effective in terms of working its magic, and then it solidifies somewhat. That's what that was supposed to be, and it's called layer cake.
Layer cake. You know what? Because you taught me so much. There were different things that examples that you showed. It was one where you rolled aluminum foil. I forgot what you called it.
Ring of steel.
Ring of steel. And when I saw that, I was like, man, you really have to be insane or sadistic to even think about something like that. I mean, I'm just saying, just wow, like, where did that come from?
Yeah, it's cultural. See, the thing is, I've been blessed to travel on 6 continents. So my exposure in those 6 continents, but then the actual the sport that you're involved in, you experience their culture in that sport and how they behave, that environment, what's natural or what's the norm for them. And so sports like Muay Thai, it would be quite common for stacking across the knuckles, and it would be quite common for ring of steel. It would be par for the course, and Steve, quite legit as well. Now the thing about the aluminum is that it's super light, but when it's folded and folded and folded and then compressed, it's super light and super hard. You know, so if you're on the receiving end of that, that's not nice, and it's only there for one reason, and that's the harm. But then you've got to understand that we live in a Western culture, probably where there's a different value in life than in some other places.
Yeah.
So, you know, or we've become the sport itself, because of the nature of the sport and the culture of the sport, it actually condones it rather than forbids it. It condones it. Remember, for entertainment value and anything that's betted on, because that's what boxing was. It's always been fist fighting as it evolved into boxing. It was always something that people betted on. So once you bet on something, there's all the entertainment value is key to that, and therefore with that then comes all sorts of skullduggery, is the best way I can put it.
So let me ask you this, because you said that you want to change from some of the things you have seen. atrocious in the sport. What was one of the worst things that you've seen? And I'm pretty sure you've seen many of them.
In context to a hand wrap.
Yes.
Context to a hand wrap. The worst thing I've ever seen is probably, I picked up the photographs that I have, Steve. Two of them at least, were ones I picked up as a commissioner. I work in back of house. So they're ones I actually picked up, and they were in boxing.
And when excuse me, Coach, when you say back of house, that's before you get into the venue, right? Okay.
Yeah. So back of house, typically in athletic boxing, is basically, back of house is the warm up area, and it's where you get your hand wraps done.
Yes.
But there's a rule and regulation that works on back of house. Now, it wasn't, in their eyes, it wasn't illegal. In their eyes, it was the cultural norm, and it was habitual. And because of the whole pro hand wrapping thing is only new, then you have to, they're still punished as anybody would be. But the thing is, like, it was put there to harm. It's just put there on the top of the knuckles. So it's just a hard object to harm. That's all it's there for. It's there to cut, or it's there it's there to harm your opponent. So, and the only way you can find it, like, I'm working sometimes on my own, Steve, in back of house, and whether it's in whatever sport, Muay Thai or boxing and stuff like that. Maybe I can't get the wrap right there and then, because I ask volunteers to be confrontational with coaches. So the only way that I can catch that wrap is when it comes off. In other words, so every fighter, when they go in for the medical, we cut the wraps off and we put them in a bag. But each of the wraps are identified in terms of the bout number. If it is international sports, the country, the coded country, and then basically the signature of the individual that allow that wrap to go on.
Right.
But we go through the bins like potato picking or potato peeling at the end of the day, and take all the wraps apart. That's how you find them.
Really?
It slipped through the net. Somebody boxed with that, and somebody was on the receiving end of it.
Wow. So the commission goes through all the hand wraps at the end, just to make sure?
Yeah. Because you're understaffed basically a lot of the, well, in this particular occasion, yeah. Because you're there on your own. And it's a new rule that's been introduced, therefore people are playing catch up with it. In terms of how it's, like, different sports have different cultures. And it's amazing, although officials may know the rule and regulation, sometimes you have big personalities in a room, and those big personalities may cause a commissioner to hesitate before they'd intervene or say something out loud. Now, good commissioners wouldn't have a problem with that. I'm not saying other individuals aren't. Maybe they're rookies, maybe they're new, something, I don't know. But you know, it's just the reason I don't really mind is because I believe that the kid that sits on the chair, male or female, that's all we turn up for, and we have to keep them safe. That's our duty, that's our obligation, that's what we're there for, and the only thing we're there for. So yeah, the book covers those things, like illegal hand wraps, from layer cake to ring of steel to stacking to roping and stuff like that. So there's a lot of cultural norms that we would go, it would shock us, but in different parts of the world, it's totally legit.
Coach, I thank you for being on. I'm not going to keep you on for too much longer, but I want to ask you a couple more questions. When is your next online seminar? And when you have it, how can people like myself or people from the U.S. or different countries be a part of that?
Okay. Well, I put the book up there for people so that they could afford it. It's $4.23. So there's like I said, there's lots of cook courses out there. There's lots of information on this, that, and the other. And I just thought, you know what? People are charging ridiculous amounts of money for cook courses and various other. I charge a fee when I physically turn up because I have to get planes, hotels, and I need a week's wages for dinner because it knocks me out for 3 or 4 a course in a book. Okay. Now, in terms of online stuff, I do webinars on a regular basis. So anytime anybody wanted a webinar, I can put them together. I have a number of webinars because the actual cook course has 8 modules. And those webinars come then with videos plus quizzes, like multiple choice. And so it's just a way to prompt your memory. So in terms of putting an online course together, I have put the ebook, the hand wrapping section of it's done in the form of the ebook. And I think, and the way I'm feeling right now, so I can actually reach out and touch continents that probably don't have a lot of money, is to do a section of it as well in terms of corner care with videos, with photographs, with stuff that people can read. So I have a ton of stuff there, and I bang them out on a regular basis in athletic, boxing, and different sports. People ring me up and say, look, can you do a webinar? I've done a few webinars during the COVID as well. So I have webinars there for performance analysis, for corner care. There's loads of stuff there. So that's just organizing Zoom or something like that, and it's you can get it done. But you can't, like, the part about the online part of it, I can't reach out right now. You guys are restricted in travel. We're restricted in travel right now as well. At the moment, we can't physically connect. So the best thing that I can do is actually, if you are working, the only way that I can support you is actually giving you information that you can use. And part of the performance analysis and corner care is treatments, and then how to break down your performance in the corner as a cook person, just a cook person, nothing else. How to break down your performance piece by piece, and then to get peer evaluated, put it up there, put it into a group. One of the biggest problems with the cook profession is that it's outgrown the people that hire us, in the sense that it's become very, very egotistical. I suppose when you think back in the days of Chuck Baddock, he turned up with a crown around his head and stuff like that. We are involved in the entertainment industry. The thing is, this social media generation has really added another element where I won't say a good element, but where ego comes from, because a lot of the times when cook people are operating in front of a camera, cook people should be shadows, should never be seen, more or less. So if you want anything, it's just a matter of connecting. Yes. And then basically I'll put the webinars together for whatever you want. If it is treatments, I can put that together because I already have, and I've already done it multiple times. And the same for hand wrapping, the same for pathogens, the same for the history of it, and the same for the emergency response plans and concussion and stuff like that. So all of that's there. That's just the Zoom. The rest is then just the practical elements, going out and practicing.
Coach, I personally have learned a lot from you just reading the guide, and it's a lot of things that I'm definitely going to use. I wanted to ask you this, and this was a cut from hell, and I want to get your opinion on how they took care of it when he fought. But did you check out Badou Jack's last fight? That cut that was awful, where he had blood all over himself. Badou Jack. I think he fought. Who did he fight his last fight?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, it was forehand, straight down the middle. Yeah, it was straight down here somewhere.
Yeah.
I remember that.
How would you have taken care of that cut?
First of all, it's a fight stoppage. That's the first thing. But then dollar value of fight dictates sometimes it shifts the moral or the code of ethics, or the moral goalposts left and right. Mm-hmm. It is a fight stoppage. But if you're going to get in and treat something that big, judging by the type of bleed, you need to know the bleed. If venous, arterial bleed is, using adrenaline 1:1000 epinephrine. It doesn't work in arterial bleeds. So if I was going to use something like that, I know at the moment there's a product out there, Quick Clot. Quick Clot stops arterial plus venal bleeds. And they've used it they have a ton of research in it. Came back from Afghanistan and various other, it's an American product. It's an American made product. Like I said, the armed forces have used it. There's a ton of evidence behind it. And they've done a ton of research on femoral artery. They've a number of pigs, cut the femoral artery, used it on, and it's been able to stop major bleeds in less than 3 minutes, arterial bleeds. Now, a femoral artery is massive, right? Now, the one on the forehead, there's a number of key arteries that run down or just off the center of the forehead. And so basically, it would be impossible to receive a cut that deep without doing some damage or cutting, without traumatizing an artery or semi-rupturing or possibly whatever. So basically, the tools that you use right there and then, when you see something like that, is key to stopping a bleed. So if I was getting him to do that, I would probably use a piece of 10x10. It's a Quick Clot, which is kaolin. What it does, it triggers off the coagulation cascade, clotting factor. And so basically to plug the hole, that's what I would have used. And so I wouldn't use swabs, I wouldn't use microfibrillary collagen, Trauma, because the prescribed substances, more than likely I would have used that.
Coach, I wish 2 years ago, back in 2018, I wish I could have found you, but you know, though, better late than never, because you know what, I'm going to put you in my back pocket, not literally, but I'm going to put you in my back pocket, and everything that you were showing me, I have adopted. I have. Before we end, sir, could you let everybody know how do they get in contact with you? How should they follow you? Where they need to subscribe and everything?
Okay. First of all, if you're looking for the book, it's called, the best thing to do in Amazon Kindle is type in professional hand wrapping. It's called The Ultimate Guide to Corner Care. It's the first of the series, but if you just type in professional hand wrapping, it's first. Okay, so that's the book part. Minute Medicine Man is the name of my website. The same goes for Instagram. The same goes for including Twitter. Although I don't really use Twitter that much, to be honest. I just post stuff up. So if you want to contact me, social media feeds are the way, or else you can contact me on minutemedicineman@gmail.com. That's the best way of doing it. The website, like I said, is www.minutemedicineman.com. And if you want to do any webinars, if you want to do things, I use live footage of myself working, because I'm not going to criticize others working. I've done it in the past because I didn't have video footage. When I started my career, I used others as examples. And I regret doing that because there's zero integrity in that stuff. It's like my shit doesn't stink. So I put my stuff up there so people can see it, and I asked them to evaluate my stuff. And so the treatments for lacerations and stuff, a lot of people find that extremely interesting, because what you're not aware of is I'll give you an example of it. If you work in athletic boxing, there's an area boxed off for media, which cuts off one angle that you can work as a cut person, right? If you work in professional, you've got the two sides, and you can get enter in the ring. Now, some people say, like, well, that's the differences between the sports. I'm not going to get into it, but that's the differences between the sports. So that means you have to learn how to position yourself. And if you are right hand dominant, how are you going to reach around an athlete if this side is blocked off? I can't use it because that's for media. How am I going to reach around and work that athlete without blocking the coach off with elbows and forearms? So I explain all that stuff. It's called handling skills and body position and stuff like that. Again, you should be a shadow in the corner, not the most important. You're part of the team, and you're there to provide a successful outcome and hopefully contribute to the corner. you don't win that kid fights. The kid does that himself. The corner does that. True good. That's all you're there for. A little dose of humility. But and any of those things would be you'll be able to contact me anyway.
Wow, Coach, I definitely am blown away, brother. I appreciate your time. Everybody, go follow Coach Joe Clifford, as he said, Minute Medicine Man on Instagram and on YouTube. He has very, very great quality, high-level tutorials. They're right in plain sight, so you can see everything. Not only does he talk about it, but he shows you. And he's not one of those type of coaches that likes to hear himself talk, meaning he over talks. He shows you. It's very, very easy. I'm from the school of thought where you keep it simple, the KISS method, keep it simple, stupid. You keep it like that, it's going to make it easy for him. So everybody go follow Coach Joe Clifford, Minute Medicine Man on Instagram and on YouTube. And if you do forget, go to my page. Everything will be at the bottom of the link on Stokes_boxing. This is Coach Stokes with Coach Joe Clifford, and we